Hello, fifth grade. Today we are going to continue talking about the colonies. We're going to talk about the middle colonies. So again, I need you to have your vocabulary sheet paper out. You need to have your chart, which we've already briefly filled out the first half. Today we're going to do the middle colonies. I was thinking of doing blues. So if you have your blue colors and the color in that part of our map and our key. And we're going to go on with the reading and kind of focus on the same thing. Why was it founded? Its geography, its economy, and its government for New York and Pennsylvania. So on our chart, I just colored our middle colonies, which include, I believe you know where I'm at right here. We have parts of New Hampshire, which are right there, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. And then in our key, we have our middle colonies. All right, so let's begin reading about New York. New York. All right. New York, the middle colony. The colony that the British named New York was the first settled by the people from the Netherlands known as the Dutch. The Netherlands, often called Holland, is a country in northern Europe. The Dutch came to the area to set up fur trading posts. The British, however, wanted this land for themselves, so the British settlers in New England could create new trade routes. In 1664, the British captured the colony. England's king gave the land to his brother, the Duke of York. New York's geography made it a good place to settle. New York Harbor was ideal for shipping and trade, and the valley of the Hudson and Mohawk rivers were well suited for farming and trade. Iron, a useful mineral, was also found in this region. So that's part of the geography. Winters in New York were cold and summers were hot and humid and moist, but there were long growing seasons in the valleys and along the coast, so farming was easier here than in New England. So we have, for its geography, we have that it was near water. So for the harbors allowed for trade and shipping, the rivers allowed for farming. They would use irrigation. Iron was a natural resource, and they had a long growing season for growing crops and for farming. And remember, think back to our previous chapter when we think about like that transatlantic, from this transatlantic slave trade, those arrows going from the colonies and all the raw products and the natural products that were sent to England to be manufactured. New York's economy offered colonists good jobs in many industries. Farmers grew wheat, corn, vegetables, and tobacco, while other colonists became miners, lumberers, sailors, trappers, and merchants. Some workers were indentured servants or enslaved Africans. So that is our economy. Colonists had little power in New York's government. Governors appointed by the king were controlled by England, and the governor appointed other officials to enforce the laws. So, probably the least democratic because it was a governor and their rule was all. All right, so let's look at our chart and get all of our information in. So it was originally found as a Dutch colony for fur trading. England took over it, and it was given to the Duke of York. Their geography is harbors, rivers, natural resources. They have a long growing season, lots of water access. The economy, there was farming, there were many crops. They had a long growing season. Miners, lumber, shippers, merchants, slave traders, and the governor was the main government and appointed people to enforce laws. So less voice from representation, less voice and less representation. All right, Pennsylvania, PA. All right, Pennsylvania. Like the Puritans, the Quakers were a religious group whose beliefs set them at odds with the official church in England. Quakers had no priests or ministers and would not fight in wars. English Quaker William Penn was jailed several times for his beliefs. He wanted to start a new colony where Quakers could live safely. In 1681, King Charles II granted land in North America to Penn, which he used to found Pennsylvania, which really means Penn's Woods. So that's how it was founded. Penn welcomed people from many countries in his colony, regardless of the religion they practiced. Penn also treated American Indians with respect. Therefore, they lived in peace with the colonists. Although many Quakers opposed slavery, Penn permitted people to bring enslaved Africans to the colony and even own slaves himself. And that quickly changed as they got closer, as we moved further through history, and we see more of the abolition movement occurring. A lot of the Quakers end up being the helpers through the Underground Railroad and help to get slaves escape to the north. Pennsylvania's geography provided many resources. The Delaware River Valley had rich soil for farming. There were forests for timber. Other materials included coal, minerals like iron and copper. Rivers offered easy transportation. Winters were cold and snowy, but the climate did not discourage colonists. So our geography points are right there. The colony developed a strong economy with jobs in many industries. Farmers raised dairy cattle and grew wheat and vegetables such as corn. People worked as miners, lumbermen, and merchants. Many Quaker merchants and farmers became rich. So we have a lot of minerals and natural resources, so a lot of industries and jobs there for the economy. The king approved Penn's appointment of the colony governor. A general assembly met to pass or reject laws made by a council. All men who owned property could vote for members of the assembly. In 1696, the colony became more democratic when elected members of the assembly gained power to write laws. And granted, their laws were laws for their area and just their colony, but they still had to follow the rules of what was set forth to them by the king. All right, so let's go and fill out our chart now. All right, so if we look at our chart, get it all in there. All right, so we have, it was founded by the Quakers looking for religious freedom by William Penn. And they were given a grant to start a new colony. They were peaceful with the natives. Their geography was near water, which allowed access for ships and trade. They had a rich soil for farming. They were full of forests, natural minerals, and had cold winters. Their economies were farming. They had wheat, dairy cows. They were miners, lumberers, merchants, and they were wealthy. Okay, they had money in Pennsylvania. Their government was they made a ruling body, a general assembly, and they met to pass laws and wrote laws. And men with land could elect representatives. That's REPS, reps. All right. Next, last thing we need to do is just vocabulary from this chapter. All right, so our two words for our lesson are a body of lawmakers is an assembly, and a grant, kind of butchered this, my apologies, to give something to someone of lower rank as a favor or privilege. So William Penn was given a grant for land. All right, my friends, our next lesson, we are going to talk about the Southern colonies. Dirty South.